Welcome to this fireside chat. I'm Alice Cole, Solution Consultant at Flexera, and today I'm in the Reading Room in Imperial War Museum, London. I'm thrilled to bring you an exciting conversation with the winners of the Flexera Technology Intelligence Awards 2024 in the Innovation of the Year category. I'm joined by Edward Kay, the Head of Platforms and Development here at the Imperial War Museums, and Cameron Ritchie, Founding Director of Radzik Services in New Zealand. We'll delve into how Flexera supported their journey, the obstacles they encountered, and how they overcame those challenges to achieve success. Ed, Cameron, thank you so much for joining me today. To kick things off, could you share a bit about the Imperial War Museums and your current roles?
My name's Ed Kay. I'm Head of Platforms and Development here at the Imperial War Museum.
And Cameron, can you introduce yourself?
Certainly, my name is Cameron Ritchie. I'm based out of New Zealand. I'm a consultant. Been working with the museum for the last 5 years on projects, and one of them is on technology and intelligence at the moment. Prior to that, I actually did work for the Imperial War Museum for 13 years and got a lot of passion for the actual museum and what it does for the community and the area.
The War Museum was actually created in 1917 as a way for the British public to actually have a historical record of conflict and the effects of conflict on social culture and things like that. So we started as a museum in 1917. We actually are now in a permanent home, which is at Lambeth Road, which is the old Bethlehem Hospital, which is where the term Bedlam comes from. And essentially this is our permanent base. We also have another 4 branches around the UK. We have Duxford, which is a working airfield and specialises in World War I onwards, especially Battle of Britain, and we have an American Air Museum there as well. We have a museum in Manchester, which is quite close to BBC Media City area, at Salford Quays, which is a fascinating museum designed to make you feel slightly uncomfortable, which is actually what conflict should be like anyway. And then on top of that, another 2 museums which are very popular in London are the Church of War Rooms and HMS Belfast, which is obviously the large battleship which is permanently positioned on the Thames. And so these 5 institutions, these 5 kind of branches, were all separate and have now come under the Imperial War Museums umbrella. So we're a kind of a single sort of body moving forward that allows the public to try and understand the effects of conflict on society in general.
And just to add, it's actually not also about historical war. A lot of people think about the First and Second World War when they think about the Imperial War Museum, but it's also current warfare. So it is the obligation of the museum to actually archive all conflict and anything which is actually happening now, which is related to the United Kingdom and historically with the Commonwealth and other territories, that we will actually house it long term and make sure it's all protected.
It must be so difficult to manage different objects, all the way from ships like the HMS Belfast to small digital documents and media. So what would you say is the primary goal for your department within the Imperial War Museums?
So I work in the IT department, and our overall function is to make sure that the whole operation can function digitally. So as you mentioned, we've got an archive of about 33 million objects in the collection at the moment, and that's growing all the time. As Cameron mentioned, we're accepting information and content from current conflicts as well. So we're always ingesting more and more increasingly born digital content. So we've got mechanisms and platforms in place to support that. We have obviously a large sort of productivity side to things. So we have lots of productivity tools and word processing and the usual stuff that you would have with any sort of organisation. But on top of that, because of the diversity of the organisation, we have some interesting challenges. We're a museum, so we have museum-y things that we need to do. We have a working airfield. which also includes a fire service. So we need to incorporate that. We host air shows every year, which have up to 30, 40,000 people attending. So we've got lots of different things. We also have shops and cafes and things like this. So it's a very diverse sort of set of functions that we need to support from a digital point of view, to basically keep the lights on. So it's really kind of a lot of variety to the role.
Ed, what were the key challenges your team were facing before you sought out solutions?
Part of the challenge with the museum is that there's so many different diverse areas. We have conservation, we have curatorial, we have backroom staff. There's all sorts of things going on. And as part of that, over time, lots of different departments have got their own particular requirements, especially as the emergence of digital technology and computers has kind of progressed, because obviously the museum started from an entirely analog point of view in 1917. So now we've moved into the area of computers and mobile phones and things like this. And there's been a natural sort of tendency to just purchase the software and the technology that you thought was going to be useful at the time. And so over that period of time, we've started to get quite a bloated sort of environment, a lot of different systems that have come in play. And it's only fairly recently that we've been able to sort of look at the entire estate and start to say, is this actually what we should be purchasing? We're a non-profit, we're a charity. Do we have the facilities to actually manage and control all of these different services? Do we know what some of them are? A lot of them are bought by different parts of the organisation and are very niche, because we're a kind of a niche organisation ourselves. So trying to understand that and rationalise things and make sure that we're getting the best value, the best kind of hit for our money, and generally trying to create a managed service, and also at the same time balancing things like cybersecurity, and making sure that we don't have gaping holes in our infrastructure and things like that is all sort of a big challenge. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to give people an insight into what their departments are running, how they're using those services, and to give them the opportunity to actually reevaluate what they're doing all the time, so they can say, you know what, we don't need this bit of software, we're not using it anymore, because as time progresses, things move on. So that was a challenge. And what we wanted to do is say, well, how do we get past this? How do we actually provide the organisation with that information so that informed decisions can be made? Can we be a data-driven organisation, in effect? And that was the approach that we wanted to take. So what we looked at was, well, do we have any tools in our infrastructure already that can do this? And Cameron will give you some insight into the fact that we had already been working with Snow for some time. So that looked like that was an obvious kind of option for us to be able to use Snow to realise our requirements in this area. Cameron?
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly true. We obviously were Snow license manager prior to going to Snow Atlas. And the reason why we kind of moved to Snow Atlas was because it was newly kind of developed to actually also handle not just traditional SAM, so software asset management, but also actually cloud-based solutions which are being purchased. Shadow IT, or direct purchasing, which is probably more appropriate, is where the museum staff have the capability to actually purchase software which they need to resolve a function or a problem they actually have, which they think technology is actually going to address, and us actually getting an understanding and a full visibility of it, both on what's actually on people's machines, but also what is actually going to be accessed in the cloud. Snow Atlas actually had some extra benefits, like the ability to actually see what people have actually gone to for a login portal using browser-based access, and also the one of the largest kind of repositories of recognition information with regards to the software, SKUs, licensing out of Europe, and now with Flexera, obviously globally as well, because it's all combined. So there was a number of factors which definitely helped us make the decision to continue with Snow back then, and obviously Flexera now. And it's helped us to work with internal teams inside the IT department, but also actually the business as a whole, to actually understand what is actually our true footprint of actual usage of technology, because it's no longer software and it's no longer SaaS and all that. It's actually technology asset management as a whole. And that's where technology intelligence needs to come in and get appropriate insights out of it.
Those sound like significant hurdles. I recall from when we first spoke a couple of years ago, there were several areas of the technology stack where the functionality overlapped, and different departments were using different applications, and also the financial and data risks associated with the direct purchasing. They're a challenge for many of our customers. So what was at stake for you and your teams if these issues weren't addressed?
I think first and foremost, it's got to do with you start with you dealing with what you know, but there's a whole aspect of what you don't know. And a lot of businesses, obviously, as they grow, being able to actually keep control of actually what has been purchased is sometimes can be slipped to the side. And then it's not necessarily known until a later date, and then questions start to get asked of like, well, actually, how did you purchase this, and those kind of things. So direct purchasing, there's a need for it, but also it needs to be visible to the business and also the associated departments, so that we can address other aspects which maybe those people aren't thinking about. Normally a product is being purchased to meet a functional need, but they're not actually thinking of necessarily other aspects about that product. A lot of software and also cloud-based services are overlapping these days. So you can buy software which has actually got subscriptions, and then for actually licensing, but you've also got software which actually installs and it's got a login to actually go to cloud services, even though you might just be buying it for your to be installed on a person's computer. So what a lot of people don't really think about is, well, I bought this, I've installed it on my machine for some software, but where's the cloud actually holding the data? What is actually being sent out to that way? So then the business actually might have some extra questions around governance. IT security teams will actually want to know information about has it got MFA, SSO kind of capabilities to protect the users who are logging on to the software, as well as the data which is actually potentially intellectual property of an organization. So there's a lot of drift. And if you don't actually have full visibility of everything there, you can't ask the questions of those people of why it's actually used. The other kind of factor I'd like to say is also duplication of applications which are purchased. So you might actually buy two products by two different vendors, but they do the same thing. And this day and age, there's a lot of products out there which actually do that. You buy it for one reason, but it can do all these other extra things. And there's not necessarily going to be a review of that if you don't actually know what's actually out there.
And what about making that data accessible? So you've got that data, it's really rich, you're able to make the use of that data, then you're wanting to facilitate all the different departments with that information as and when they need it.
Yeah, so as Cameron mentioned, because we've got so many different departments, one of the things that's crucial for us is once we've got that data, can we make it transparent and available for the end users to use? It's not something that should be reserved just for IT use. So our output from working with Snow and Flexera was to produce a dashboard that's available for teams to be able to say, okay, these are the pieces of software that we've purchased, these are the functions that we've bought or we've got a subscription to, this is how we're using it. And so that then frees them to say, on a regular basis, to say, are we making the best use of this? Are we spending far too much? As I mentioned before, we're a charitable organisation, but we're also part of the National Archive in terms of storing things. So we've got this usage plus security aspect. So it's kind of, if something suddenly gets flagged as being a security risk, we know that it's on our estate and we can kind of act accordingly to correct that. But it is also the value for money side of it. You know, are we using these tools correctly? Are we spending our money wisely? Could we use something else, as Cameron mentioned, that's maybe a duplicate piece of software that provides more value? There's a whole bunch of different things, but unless we can then present that to different teams within the organisation, they don't know that. And quite often, when we started to put the dashboard together, we would get teams saying, "Oh, I didn't realise that we had this in our team," and they're the only team that had bought it. So it's kind of like, because over the years the teams change, personnel change. So what we've ended up is that we've kind of ended up with quite a lot of bespoke builds, and that's really hard for an IT team to kind of support and manage. So what we really want to do is move to a model where if a team wants to buy software, that's fine. They can build their own business case and purchase whatever they want to purchase. But then we're a part of the conversation because it's then part of a managed service that we can deliver and maintain for them. And when we move to new operating systems or you get a new laptop, then at least it's set up according to how you expect, and not, oh, well, I had 3 or 4 extra bits of software that somebody had installed at some point. Oh, well, we didn't know about that. So you kind of remove all those sort of, from a purely selfish point of view, all those things that IT get blamed for, you remove all those problems. So, but it just makes people's lives just a bit simpler and a bit easier. So, and it takes some of it even slightly just takes some of the sort of financial burden from the museum.
Utilising the data, making it visible for each of the stakeholders, making it accessible for each of the departments to allow them to make their own data-driven decisions. In the next phase, working collaboratively across departments, your software asset management process will be invaluable to the employees that need the individual resources, the finance teams and the procurement teams when it comes to budgeting and processing those renewals. Cameron, since addressing those challenges, what tangible changes and improvements have you observed in your operations?
I think the first tangible kind of thing to see is that the responsibility of IT to actually almost deal with all this on behalf of the business is a cultural change. We're starting to make the business aware, and not just actually this product, but actually the whole team as a whole in IT are doing a great job to actually do a number of different kind of tasks, which actually starting to make the business aware that they have to have ownership of everything which has been purchased. We normally try to have 2 people per application as owners, which also includes things like risk and other factors as well about procurement, renewals, and making people aware of things going through. Ed, have you got anything else to say to that?
Yeah, I think the fact that through the data that we could surface through Snow, presenting that data in a meaningful way to the teams just gave them a sense of, as Cameron mentioned, ownership and a degree of self-service. So they didn't need to come and either blame IT for a problem or come to us to ask for something. They've got a confidence in saying, well, we're not using this tool anymore. Why am I wasting my budget on it? Or actually, this tool is now turned into something different. Could we make the swap over to this? And then it becomes a much more two-sided conversation. It's not just we're getting IT getting directed to do something, or a team sort of being told to do something. It's much more of a, well, what do you want to do and how do we achieve it? So it's a more outcome-based approach, which is where we want to get to. We're not really in a position where we want to solutionize all the time. We want to talk to teams and say, well, actually, what are you trying to do? And then let's work together to decide how you can deliver it. And without surfacing this data, you can't have a meaningful conversation. It is impossible. So that's kind of the root of how we've been able to have these conversations with teams to say, okay, I now understand what you want to do, and we can kind of work together in order to deliver that.
And I just wanted to add to that, it's actually one of the things that sometimes comes out of it, like we're talking about duplication of applications which have been purchased by, and maybe trying to do a consolidation exercise. But it's actually also the reverse. Maybe that a department is actually interested in getting a product which actually could benefit more than one department or team or individual. And so being able to actually centrally be able to understand that we can take ownership and assist that department to buy it potentially for themselves, but then aware that actually others may actually get benefit, and we can start spreading the word on that, or those teams can as well. But also when IT is involved, and also the procurement teams normally, they had an added benefit to actually address things like maybe getting a better pricing on actual product purchasing. So sometimes when individuals or departments go out, they buy it, they've got a good deal potentially, but they're not necessarily going to be looking at like 5 museums worth. They might be just really focused on one site or a small team of people. So by bringing it back in, we also can then go back out and actually potentially get better pricing, which is always goes well for the bean counters. Yeah.
So just to add to that again, Cameron, is that as Cameron hinted at, one of the things that it actually is a byproduct of this data being available is that it actually de-silos the organisation, which is a really good thing, because then, you know, as Cameron hinted at, if one team says, oh, we want this bit of software, being in a central location, IT can also say, well, actually another team would like a similar sort of function, and so can we sort of work across multiple teams to actually deliver the service. So it's really good for IT to have that oversight, to be able to say, okay, we can support both of these parts of the organisation with a single purchase potentially, and obviously get the economies of scale that come with it as well.
Benefiting from the better discounts from those vendors, at the same time as being able to better maintain and support, manage those products.
Yeah. And understand how that is being delivered. So it helps to have the context. You know, sort of a lot of people in IT kind of hate the fact that they don't get any context. They just get told to do something. And so the context is almost everything. It's kind of really underpins everything.
I could keep on going on this one as well, but this one extra thing is like sometimes what has been purchased is the wrong level of subscription for the organisation. Sometimes they go and purchase like an individual one, which is more for small business. We're more in the medium-sized business market, and some of those products actually have to be enterprise. And just to get some basic things like federated access and controls, in which we want to have as a baseline in IT. So having MFA, every product, regardless of it being cloud, got a login portal, we need MFA on it to make sure it is actually secured, and the people who have got access to it are the appropriate managers and administrators as well. So it's sometimes it's advising going, okay, if you do buy this, make sure you're going to have to select from this range of business SKUs, not the personal ones, or get that is a good thing.
Yeah, choosing the right SKU is really key, because it not only could be too small of a SKU, as in you would need to have a more enterprise SKU to fix the sort of MFA and the security aspect of it, but also it could be a SKU that's way oversized. So you might want to right size that SKU, allowing your users to get the full benefit of the tool that they need to use, at the same time as not overspending on those particular SKUs. You've had a great impact on the governance of the technology use within IWM, and since implementing the processes from the data that you have, identifying potential security risks, ensuring cybersecurity, and easily identifying older or legacy applications that are nearing their end of life and end of support, which can in turn help prioritise the processes in place that you have to mitigate risk and protect IWM. But secondly, and maybe just as important, the remarkable results that you have been able to achieve financially, where you've identified the technology gaps, you've identified the unnecessary spend and reduced duplicated efforts, and you can use that technology to help the departments with their productivity. So looking at the bigger picture and the fact that this is a journey, what are the next milestones you're looking to achieve?
Well, first up, I'd say that all the stuff you just mentioned actually still has to continue on. The journey, new technology is coming in every day. There is still direct purchases that have to be addressed, and also ones which are known, and they're all going to have their own kind of extra questions raised out of what is being purchased, and maybe some new areas which we aren't aware of. Beyond that, milestones is that we're looking forward to actually expanding out the actual dashboarding, which we've been mentioning, so that transparency of information will be reaching more people internally inside the organization. We want them to be able to have that as a mechanism to build a business case for what they need to do the jobs they need, and to sort out any issues or challenges which they're actually facing, which they think technology is going to address. And then beyond that, we're going to actually start implementing a service catalog, and the service catalog is going to be powered by Snow Productivity Optimizer, and this is a automation platform which actually will help us to do the software reharvesting as well as the software request processes, to help people actually have a self-service portal where they can actually go to and actually purchase something which has already been approved by the business. Beyond that, there's probably extra milestones which I haven't thought of yet, but a goal would be is that, not necessarily for this year, but maybe a year in the future, is that we'll actually be able to actually have a report available for departments. So if they have a request of understanding what is their staff needs, what are they actually using right now, have they got the right technologies, have they got the right quantities, even the budgets to support purchasing it, and so that they can actually do reviews. That'll be the long-term goal, which we hope to achieve with everything going on.
Yeah, I think that's entirely valid, and I think what we're really looking to do is really embed this into the technology request process going forward, so that it's just a natural part of the whole conversation with the procurement team, to make sure that people are understanding what they've got, what they need, and can make some predictions, so that, you know, when it comes to predicting what you want to spend in the next few years, you've got that kind of consistent outlook, and you've got an understanding of what's available. As I mentioned before, I think the fact that it's breaking down the barriers with the conversations between IT and the rest of the organisation means that we're more open to have those conversations where you say, well, what do you want in the future? And you don't. It's not a one-off conversation. It's an ongoing dialogue where we say, okay, you need this now, but that isn't what you'll always need. Things will change, and we will be there to work with you to understand the change and to manage that correctly. So it helps us to orchestrate the whole licensing and kind of sort of spend of of our organisation, which, bear in mind, is a museum. It's not a software company. So there's a lot of people that don't really kind of understand too much, and they don't need to. They shouldn't. That's our job, to help them to navigate this. And actually, through the data that we're surfacing through the snow systems, that's what's helping us to navigate all these kind of choppy waters and to make the right decisions.
So looking at the future, what's coming down the line for you?
Well, we've got a lot of work going on with digital futures and more digitalisation as we go forward. But increasingly, we're going to start seeing a lot of use of AI to support our workforce, our curators, to provide better descriptions and to validate content and to just keep up with the amount of material that we've got at the moment. But I think what we'd be really interested in finding out is also what's in the future for Flexera as a customer.
Great question. Well, in terms of the AI track, we're actually about to release AI tool that will help you ingest invoice information. So that's something that typically takes our customers, a long time to do. It's a fairly manual task, and sometimes then, it doesn't stay up to date because it's so manual. Well, we're going to use AI to help us ingest that information and automate some of that process. So it will take customers next to no time to upload that entitlement information, have all the agreement dates, start dates, end dates, and you'll be able to see that data in the platform straight away. Lots of other things, though, that will be coming down the line for our customers, especially as snow were acquired by Flexera. Now our snow customers have the ability to utilise the wider platform that Flexera can offer, that being the technology and intelligence platform, where our customers will be able to utilise the visibility of our other products, and you'll be able to get more value from the new platform. Cameron, anything from you?
Yeah, obviously AI is the talk of the town these days, and things like Copilot, where you can do even just questions on the data you've actually collected, which isn't necessarily in standard kind of reports. I think that would be quite an exciting angle to go down. And then also financial information, details on comparing cloud services and making sure you're actually getting best value for who you're actually working with. I recall these might be some beta programs out there, which we've heard about. So I think this kind of stuff will definitely help us, and also understanding not only like what is going to be brought into Flexera and Snow platform portfolios, I should say, but also understanding what actually everyone else out there is using in the organization for AI, the different kind of ones which are available on the web to do different functions. So getting more insights on that would be good.
And talking of the beta programs, you've been a great advocate of our beta programs internally. You've given us some great feedback, and that's been able to in turn help all of our customers receive the great value from that feedback. Also, on the financial ingestion you mentioned, we also have something on the roadmap that can help with that. So in addition, customers will be able to have the financial insight into their technology spend, not just the visibility. What advice can you give similar organisations that are just starting out on their journey?
I think from my point of view, it would be to look at the outcomes, not solutionise. Really kind of focus on what does your organisation need, and then work around that. The data that's provided is going to lead you to actually producing a really good solution.
Get involvement from senior management, the financial department, the business as a whole, and also the technology departments. Don't try to do it as a siloed project just with the local teams around you. This reaches everyone in an organization, big or small. You could be a small enterprise and actually have a large footprint of technology in use. So having the right people on the journey with you, championing it, helping you actually develop it to being something worthwhile so everyone actually gets benefits out of it, 100%. Combine them all and use them.
Ed, Cameron, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.